Thank you for holding this very important hearing. I'm no stranger to discrimination, hate speech, or threats of violence against my family and myself simply because of my identity. As a Black, visibly Muslim woman who came to this country as a refugee, I've dealt with racist, xenophobic, bigoted comments and threats all my life.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Congress Flash. Today, we're diving into one of the most heated political debates in America right now, and it centers around Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Candace Owens, and the larger conversation about race, nationalism, and patriotism in the United States. From controversial comments to intense congressional hearings, we're breaking it all down in key points you need to know. No fluff, just facts, reactions, and what it all means for the future of political discourse in this country. Let's get into it.
First up, I've got to get a reaction from both of you about what Congressman Omar says about being an American. Watch.
Something that I get criticized for all the time. It's not what you think, so don't, don't gasp. It is that I am anti-American because I criticize the United States. As an immigrant, I probably love this country more than anyone that is naturally born.
Candace.
I can't think of a single comment, and you can feel free to correct me, that any of them have said positive about America or Americans. They're here asking for radical reform on the basis that this country is fundamentally irredeemable. That is the message. And here what's problematic about the way that they're conveying their messages, they're actually falling into really bad stereotypes of what it means to be a person of color in this country. A really bad stereotype about Black Americans is that we're gangbangers and that we're ignorant and that we threaten people and we're violent. We have Ayanna Pressley tweeting to Kellyanne Conway, "Hi, Becky." Remember that racist pejorative that the media roundly ignored? Right. "Hi, Becky," if I called you Becky. Imagine if you called me Shaniqua. What would the media response be to that? And she said, "Keep my name out your mouth." Could you, think about this. A congresswoman speaking to someone like that. Congress is not Bloods versus the Crips, okay? It's Republicans and Democrats coming together to try to come up with something that can make Americans feel like we are working towards a solution in this country. These women are doing the opposite.
They believe that America is an evil, racist, corrupt country at its core, and it must be completely remade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In congressional hearings, the minority party gets to select its own witnesses. And of all the people that Republicans could have selected, they picked Candace Owens. I don't know Miss Owens. I'm not going to characterize her. I'm going to let her own words do the talking. So I'm going to play for you the first 30 seconds of a statement she made about Adolf Hitler.
I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German.
All right, so my first question is to Ms. Hirschenoff. Ms. Owens said, quote, "If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany." So when people try to legitimize Adolf Hitler, does that feed into white nationalist ideology?
First up, Reverend Ilhan Omar took the mic at a congressional hearing and spoke openly about the hate and discrimination she's faced. As a Black, visibly Muslim immigrant who came to the U.S. as a refugee, Omar described the threats and bigotry she's endured, but the moment quickly became controversial. Conservative voices fired back, saying Omar doesn't praise America, she criticizes it. They accused her of tearing the country down instead of building it up. Critics claim
It does, Mr. Liu. I know that Ms. Owens distanced herself from those comments later, but we expressed great concern over the original comments.
Great, thank you. So there's been a lot of talk today. I'd like to focus on actual policy responses that our government can do to try to mitigate the threat of white nationalism. I know that in my district in Los Angeles just last month, 2 swastikas were painted at Pan Pacific Park along with the Trail of Blood. I met with Jewish constituents in my district who mentioned that at their synagogues, they've all had to increase security. As you know, there is a nonprofit security grant program at the Department of Homeland Security. Do you believe it'd be worthwhile to increase funding to that program?
The ADL has, for establishment reasons, First Amendment reasons, been very cautious and wary of government funding to religious institutions. That being said, we well understand the fear and the safety. So I think that is something that has to be done very carefully in terms of what entanglement. I know in the place where in Westchester County where I live, the state and local governments provide a great deal of protection to the synagogue to which I belong. So I do understand, and I would like to work more with Congress, but I want to caution about where we entangle. This is a very difficult thing to do because when we're scared like this, of course we want money.
So that is a great point you make, and I want to note that this program would apply to mosques as well as synagogues, so it is not specific to the religion. But it is true, the First Amendment does affect all of these issues, including, for example, private sector companies to say whatever it is that they want. Now, I'd like to also talk about a second program, and this was one that I'm going to ask Ms. Clark about, and it has to do with the Trump administration wanting to cut a very specific office called the Community Relations Service Office in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. Can you first explain to American people what that office does and why it would be a bad idea to cut funding?
Critics claim that every time she speaks about America, it's in the context of racism, injustice, or failure, not freedom, opportunity, or unity. From there, the debate escalated. Omar and other progressive lawmakers, often referred to as the Squad, were accused of being anti-American. Some argue they believe the U.S. is beyond saving, inherently racist, corrupt, and in need of a complete overhaul. This sentiment struck a nerve. For many, this is about free speech and holding power accountable. For others, it's seen as disrespectful and destructive, especially coming from elected officials who've benefited from the very system they criticize. So here's the question. Can you love your country and still call out its flaws, or does constant criticism cross the line into rejection of American values? This brings us to Candace Owens, who was called to testify at the hearing. Owens didn't hold back. She argued that the Squad's rhetoric pushes dangerous stereotypes, especially about Black Americans, and turns Congress into a battlefield instead of a platform for solutions. She also called out Ayanna Pressley, another member of the Squad, for a tweet aimed at Kellyanne Conway calling her Becky. Owens said if the roles were reversed, the media would have exploded. But because it came from a progressive woman of color, it was largely ignored. And then things really blew up when a clip of Owens discussing nationalism and Adolf Hitler resurfaced. Her comment, suggesting that Hitler's mistake was trying to globalize, triggered widespread outrage and accusations of enabling white nationalist rhetoric. Before we move on, if you're finding this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel is all about cutting through the noise and getting to the truth. Let's pivot to something that often gets lost in the political drama, the actual threats facing communities. Lawmakers at the hearing discuss the rise in white nationalist violence, including a disturbing incident in Los Angeles where swastikas were found in a public park. Jewish and Muslim communities alike are feeling the pressure, increasing security at places of worship, facing new threats, and asking for help. That led to a debate over government funding. Should more federal dollars go to protect synagogues, mosques, and other vulnerable sites? Some civil rights leaders supported it but warned about First Amendment concerns and the risk of entangling government with religion. It's a tricky balance, safety versus separation of church and state. The conversation wrapped with a warning about cuts to the Department of Justice's Community Relations Service, a division that helps mediate racial and civil rights disputes. Critics of the Trump administration's move to cut this office say it would strip communities of a critical tool for peace and de-escalation during tense moments. So what's the bigger picture here? This entire hearing, from Omar's testimony to Owens's controversial remarks, is a microcosm of the deep divide in how Americans view patriotism. Is patriotism defending the country against criticism, or is it demanding that the country live up to its promises? Critics say Omar's version of love for America sounds more like resentment. Supporters say that her willingness to speak truth to power is the most American thing she can do. Whatever side you're on, one thing's clear. The conversations happening in Congress are more raw, more personal, and more public than ever before. Let me know your take in the comments. Is criticism a sign of love or disloyalty? Should elected leaders be held to a different standard? If you got value from this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Until next time, stay informed, stay sharp, and don't fall for the noise. Peace.